So this gift, right, when you finally say yes, what happens is the Holy Spirit comes in you. And if you want to turn to John 15, the awesome thing is you come as you are. Don't worry about, will I have to stop doing this or stop doing that if I accept Christ? And the great thing is he begins to change you. You come as you are and he'll clean you up. John 15 says this, Jesus talking, I am the true vine and my Father is the vine dresser. Every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And you can underline that takes away because we're going to look into that. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes that it may bear more fruit. You are already clean because of the word which I have spoken to you. Abide in me and I in you. As the branch cannot bear fruit of itself unless it abides in the vine, neither can you unless you abide in me. I am the vine, you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. If anyone does not abide in me, he is cast out as a branch and is withered, and they gather them and throw them into the fire, and they are burned. If you abide in me, and my words abide in you, you will ask what you desire, and it shall be done for you. By this my Father is glorified, that you bear much fruit, so you will be my disciples. So, so first of all, you come to the Lord, and he cleans you up. What that means is you start bearing fruit. He starts changing you from the inside out. And but if you've been a Christian for a while and sometimes think about, well, why am I not bearing fruit? I've been a Christian for a little while, and I look at the fruit of the Spirit in Galatians 5, and I don't see that in my life. In verse 2 of this chapter, it says, every branch in me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And every branch that bears fruit, he prunes it so that it may bear more fruit. In that verse, in verse 2 of John 15, he's talking about two different branches. He's talking about the fruitless branch, and I forgot to put this on here. If y'all want the notes afterwards, just let me know, and I can email it to y'all. But he's talking about two different branches, the fruitless branch and the fruitful branch. But that word takes away in verse 2, 3 of the 4 definitions in that is given to us have to do with lifting up, raising up, pulling up. Takes away is a definition, but it's the fourth of the definitions. Those 3 that I just named are always before it. And just to write these verses down, the Greek word is airo, A-I-R-O. And in John chapter 11, verse 41, Revelations 10:5, Luke 17:13, and Acts 4:24. And I'll read them to you. John 11, verse 41. Then they took away the stone from the place where the dead man was lying. And Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, Father, I thank you that you have heard me. That right there, Jesus lifted up his eyes. Lifted up is the same word, arrow, that says takes away in verse 2. He lifted up his eyes. Revelations 10:5. The angel whom I saw standing on the sea and on the land raised up his hand to heaven. Raised up is the same Greek word, arrow. Luke 17:13. And they lifted up their voices and said, Jesus, Master, have mercy on us. Lifted up, the same word, arrow. Acts 4:24. And when they heard that, they raised their voice to God with one accord and said, Lord, you are God who made heaven and earth and the sea and all that is in them. They raised their voice, the same word, arrow. So what's my point? My point is, you read that verse at first, every branch of me that does not bear fruit, he takes away. And you think that, man, I'm going to be taken out. Does that mean I'm going to lose my salvation? Those verses are only a few that use the same word arrow for lifting up or raising up. So my point is this. What happens sometimes with the vine is sometimes the branches grow downward, right? And they grow into the ground, stunning its growth. And the floods come and it just gets drowned in there and it stops bearing fruit. And sometimes what the vine dresser would do, they would take that branch, tie it up or keep it up until it starts growing on its own and being strong enough to where it can be let go again. You can let the tie off or whatever. So my point is this. If you are not bearing fruit, maybe you need to allow him to raise you up out of a situation that's unprofitable, unfruitful. Maybe raise you up out of a habit that you need to break. Maybe even raise you up out of a relationship that is not good for you, that's not leading you to the Lord. So, yes, that could be translated takes away, but the majority of the time, that word means raise up or lift up. So maybe if you're not bearing fruit, you just need to be lifted up. The Lord needs to redirect you, reposition you. Because you go all throughout that chapter, and never is the commandment that you have to bear fruit. The commandment is, abide in me and you will bear fruit. And notice in verse 2, it says, every branch in me that does not bear fruit, that fruitless branch is still in him. And he promised, if you stay in me, you will bear fruit. Verse 6, that branch is not abiding in him. That's not the same branch. If anyone does not abide in me, he is cast out as a branch and is withered. And they gather them and throw them into the fire, and they are burned. That's not the same branch. That fruitless branch in verse 6 is not there anymore. It's not abiding. Verse 2, it is. So the Lord, like I said, he begins to work in you, and you begin to show fruit in your life.